Dear participants, welcome. Today we are together for the 11th time as part of ODE Select Architect Meetings. On behalf of ODE Installation, I welcome you all. Thank you very much for your participation. We place special importance on this series of events, and indeed, every time we prepare with great excitement and pleasure. Because as ODE Installation, we believe that no organization that does not add value to its stakeholders can be successful. Thanks to the synergy between us and our valuable architects, we have produced high-quality events until today. We discussed many issues from the change of architecture to the earthquake, which is a very important fact of our country, and shared our ideas in that events. And under the umbrella of ODE Select, which is the digital platform that we set out with the motto of everything about design, we have hosted valuable architects and academics of our country in the previous 10 meetings. And now in our 11th meeting, this time we went abroad. And today, the founder of Roşkint Arquitectos, the world famous Mexican architect, Michel Roşkint, is with us. We look forward to hearing what Roşkint will tell us today under the title of Shared Responsibility. And in this conversation, our valuable moderator, architect, Ms. Banu Uçar, will accompany him. Now I leave the floor to Ms. Banu, and I wish you all a pleasant meeting. Here you go, Banu.
Thank you very much, Ayşe. Herkese merhaba. Dear all, welcome. I'm so happy and proud to present you my dear friend and obviously a brilliant architect, Michel Roşkint. Michel is not only a brilliant architect, he's a planner, he's an enthusiastic athlete, he's a loving father, and most of all, he is an energetic, curious mind. I want to thank him for being here with us tonight. I'm sure you are very much familiar with his work, but I want to remind you some of his accomplishments before we start. Michel Roşkint is from Mexico City, as you know, and he studied architecture and urban planning at the Universidad Iberoamericana. He founded Roşkint Arquitectos in 2002. In 2005, he was already selected by Architectural Record's Design Vanguard as one of the 10 international firms of the year. In 2010, he won the Emerging Voices Prize organized by the Architectural League of New York. The same year, Los Angeles Times named him as one of the people to watch that year. 1 year later, 2011, Wallpaper magazine named him as one of the 150 movers, shakers, and makers that have rocked the world in the last 15 years. You know, he used to be a rock star. I think he has still the sparkle. In 2013, Forbes magazine recognized him as one of the most influential architects in the contemporary Mexican scene. Also, the New York Times named him as a part of a generation of architects making its mark at dizzying speed in 2017. And this year, he was named as one of the most inspiring people of 2020 for 00M, from 00M. And you know most of the projects probably, but I want to remind you, in Mexico, his built projects stand out. The Nestle Chocolate Museum, the red, sexy, delicious building. I cannot believe, but it was 2007. It was like yesterday. La Cineteca Nacional in 2012. Hyde Park Monastery in 2015. El Mercado Roma 2014. And last but not least, the marvelous The House of the Boca del Rio Philharmonic, Foro Boca. It was completed at 2017. Michel has been visiting professor at IACC in Barcelona, at SciArc, UPenn, and Harvard. And I'm really excited to hear you once again because he has already given a conference live in Istanbul at 2010, which was a huge success back then. We had very nice time. So I know this is the new normal, but I'm hoping to see each other face to face in the near future, Michelle. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being us here tonight.
Thank you very much, Banu. I'm excited to be here today. Of course, I miss you as well. I was recently in Turkey, and I was happy to be back. This time it was a pleasure trip with my daughter, but yeah, I love the country, I love the people, and I think there's a lot of similarities that we can talk about later. But let me start sharing my presentation. Thanks for the intro, and again, thanks for the invite. Perfect. So I'll try to run through some of the projects. I might go fast on some of them and slow on some of the others, but you can interrupt me at any time. I think these type of formats is good. If anybody wants to say something in Banu, you want to maybe stop something and say something, let me know, because I'll be happy to maybe answer while we're on the process. So I'm going to start with build on craft. Build on craft, and the idea of shared responsibility, which you'll start seeing as at the moment I start explaining the projects. I think that it's very important to understand the part of digital design to local fabrication. And I start off with saying, like, where do I work? No, so this is a view from the window of the plane going down in Mexico City. And it's funny because when people, if you've ever been to Mexico, you're flying above a city, and it takes a while for the pilot to say, now we're landing. And people are like, what? We've been going on top of a city for, I don't know how many minutes, that you still haven't landed. So that's the metropolis, that's Mexico City. And where we are ingenious, but we're ingenious by necessity. There's a need to reinvent. There's a need of Mexican people to figure out how to do things and what to do, because we come from systems that don't work accordingly to other type of places. So I'll describe Mexico in this photograph that was taken by a partner of mine. And this is not staged. This really happened. So this guy here owns the store here. And the light stopped working. So this guy called the government saying, like, guys, please come and fix the light, because, it's affecting my store, because a lot of people don't come anymore because the cars go really fast and nobody's stopping on the sign. So people are scared of crossing this space. So can you please help me fix it? Of course, nobody came and fixed the light. So he called his compadre. This is his compadre, his really good friend. And he had a truck, and the compadre brought his truck. This truck is his. And he put a ladder there, and this is the owner of the store. He doesn't know how to fix a stoplight. He's not an electrician, but he's there. He's trying to fix it on his own. And what happens next? When everything is in total chaos, imagine how fragile this scene is. The complexity. And finally, this guy here, a policeman, shows up saying, everything is under control. The police are here. We're taking care of it. So this is what I mean by, we have to take things in our own hands. We have to be ingenious by necessity. We have to show how we can do things in a different way besides a system solving the problem. That in most countries, you have these amazing systems that work flawless and amazing. So I'll start off with a very old house, a PR 34 house. This house was built almost 20 years ago. And I remember, because we wanted to have this made in steel, I remember that there was not a contractor that was super skilled on the steel trade that we wanted. So we went to this place called Colonia Doctores, where they fixed wrecked cars. And by having these guys come with us, they helped, this is the work that they do there. So for them to do a house, that was a house, again, 20 years ago, was really easy to do. So at that very early stage, I found out that, to me, it didn't matter if it was a construction company or a company that was in the architectural industry. I wanted to find any company that was worth working with, any company that would help me solve an architectural problem that I had, that I wanted to do, provide me with a solution. The Nestle Chocolate Museum is another great example. Not only of again, this ingeniousness, the Mexican workers doing things in a very quick way, in a fast way, But this was a project that what I learned from this was that I can really change the program that the client had. So it is very important to understand the client came with a brief, and the brief was not to build a chocolate museum. The brief was to build a little tour inside the factory, the existing factory, where kids would just see how the chocolate was built and produced. And I proposed to the client, like, why do you want to just do that? If maybe we can do a chocolate museum and we can have something to give back to the community. So the moment I presented this to the client, he smiled and he says, I love the idea. So that's when I started learning at a very early stage that even though a client has a program and wants you to do a certain project, if you're intelligent enough to sit people at the table and have the right dialogue, the client is open to listen to you and to understand and to understand that there are maybe better solutions. So that kind of triggered my career over time. And there's this parallel innovation. So it's not only the innovation of a architectonic shape or architectural design that's then locally fabricated, but a parallel innovation in questioning the program, understanding that there can be more, understanding that we can do more for our communities and our society. This is another really quick example, Toritori, Japanese restaurant, very low budget, so we had to really make the best of it. And we started playing around with how to create a skin for this existing building that we restructured. And again, our Mexican workers, I'm really super proud of the quality of work that they provide. I'm super proud of what they can bring to the table. And having these guys putting all the detail in the work is amazing, because we had sometimes I would complain at the beginning that, oh, we don't have companies like in maybe Switzerland, that the facade is produced in a factory and comes already shipped and everything is like super precise. And here, I mean, I wish you could see these images and smell the burn and the guys like going over the metal, and because it's the process is beautiful. The process to get there, they're fabricating a piece that becomes a piece crafted by hand. You see the workers with their hands, and it just changes the value of things. It changes the value and the capacity of understanding the love that you're, or the procurement that you're doing in a project. So this is this Japanese restaurant. There was an existing house in Polanco that we restructured. Most people have seen this project. I mean, we work with Hector Esrague, a really good friend of mine who does interior design. But I think that the most important thing is like designing for these other things to happen, and picking up where governments are failing or city planning is failing. We were asked to do the National Film Institute, the Cineteca Nacional. And this was an amazing project because a bigger scale project. This was 60,000 square meters that were built in 9 months. So designed and built in 9 months and fabricated before President Calderon left his term. So the National Film Institute already existed. And what you have here is that you had these 4 cinemas, but the access was through a parking lot. So this whole site was a parking lot, a parking garage. So when they called us to refurbish it and extend it and put 4 new cinemas, the new vaults and everything, we started questioning, what is the identity of the National Film Institute? What should the identity be? And our question started being on the idea, if we start putting some elements, can we first reclaim the complete site? Can we have the complete site as a whole and understand it like an oasis in the middle of this urban sprawl that's happening with all these high rises in residential buildings around it? So we actually did the 4 new cinemas that have this rooftop that cantilevers over the existing ones. We took out the cars. You see here in the back, there's a parking garage. We left the parking garage here in the back. So that parking garage takes the cars away. So once you come in, there are no cars anymore. So now you have a green space. So now the idea of having the Film Institute be more a sort of campus than an ordinary cinema. So the new cinemas are really beautiful on the inside, and we're happy about that. But we're happier that what we did was go from this image that you have here with cars to this image that now becomes a park. So this park that invites people not only to watch the movies, but people just to hang out and be in a public space that a lot of different and beautiful things happen. Again, we questioned the program, and this program didn't include this outdoor cinema. And we were lucky enough to have the chance to provide an outdoor cinema because people love the experience. And up until today, it's been amazing how people take advantage of this space, no? So the idea of our projects has been more and more, do they have a positive impact on the community? So it's not just about the architecture, it's about what the architecture can do. So here you see images of different people taking the plaza. So you have the father of the disappeared students complaining to the government. You have other people after the earthquakes, it was a place of people leaving jackets and beverages and things for people that needed them. So it became a place for everybody. So it was not only about a cinema, it was about a place to hang out, to have a protest, to have a performance, to have many different things. And this is pictures taken from the day to day. So to me as an architect, I mean, yes, we love architecture, we love designing the architecture, but we love how the spaces are occupied. We love to see how society unravels in the projects that we do. Here is a concert, for instance, that there was a performance. So everybody takes like the main plaza. The outdoor cinema, if there's no movie, people just love hanging out and they have picnics there and they just take their food and they hang out or they make out. And when their movies are projected, then you have tons of people. I mean, it was designed for 600 people. And I think that we always get around 1,000, 1,200 people or even more. So it's fun to see how many people are. I mean, this was before COVID, this photograph, of course. The new ones, of course, are a bit more separated at the moment, but hopefully we'll go back to this. So I love talking about craft in general, because craft slows things down. No, it keeps traditional techniques alive and it maintains the importance of human connection. I really miss in some of the bigger projects, this whole fabrication and production that's like you don't see people. You go from design to a factory, the factory sends a bus, the bus downloads the material and they start building a building, sometimes even with machines, no? So to me, it's very important. And now, even after the pandemic, how do we slow down a little bit? How do we come back to the basic things that maybe got us here? Because the big questioning to me today is, are we part of the problem or are we part of the solution? So I think that a question for us as architects has to be that, no? This is another project for Liverpool, the department store. And the whole intention here was to build and design a project that would have a facade that would be occupiable, not just a graphic design, but a facade that would eventually start exploring its spatial qualities, figuring out if you can have people coming out, if you can have different experiences rather than the typical department store, but have again, maybe somebody is cutting their hair on the facade, maybe you have a CrossFit class, and it becomes sort of this connection to the real world and to the people outside. And that was we were pushing this department store company because normally these companies never look to the outside. They just have these facades and they don't care about the relationship inside out. So we said, well, if we have 3 meters of depth in that facade, could those 3 meters be used to occupy that? Can we create these spaces? Can we have staircases on the outside? And this is a little bit of what happened. Also, even though this is a bigger project, we said we want to see how to work with the craftsmen, with the craftspeople that we know. So instead of having laser cutters, this was our laser cutter, a guy who was cutting the hexagons by hand, one by one, of course, with a bigger team, but ensembling them, welding them together, making sure that they were perfect for putting them on the project. And even the bigger ones that are 3 meters high. So it was amazing to witness the production of what was going on. This is a mock-up of the facade before we assembled everything. And then, of course, the building on site, people were stopping while the building was being built because it's a very important corner and nobody knew what this thing was going to be, no? So it was fun to see even the process. Here you see the building with its perforations and how the interaction between inside out now really happens. You see the people walking in, walking out. They never fully activated the facade, but at least there's people that use it as a staircase. people from the restaurant hang outside and have breakfast there or lunch. So it becomes more than just a department store. Now I'm going to jump to Fotoboca. And Fotoboca, and again, it's like the main theme was shared responsibility. And why do I talk about shared responsibility? I talk about it because I think to me, it's imperative. No, to me, if we're not sharing the responsibility of being part of the solution or part of the problem, we're not even understanding what we're doing. So architecture has the capacity to really revive communities if it's very well thought, and if it has the intention and the will, and of course it's not easy, but you have to work with the clients and really focus on the important aspects. So again, it's what do we give back to the community? How we can give or deliver growth and value to the lives of the people that are not part of the project, but the project sits in a place where it has to have roots to connect. So the beauty about this project, and I don't know if many of you know the story, this project, there was a mayor that came to Boca del Rio. This is in Veracruz. I'll show you a little bit. I think it's here. So there you have Mexico City. Let me grab the tool. Where is it? I can't. It's okay. So Mexico City, you have Veracruz, and in Veracruz you have Boca del Rio. So the mayor of Boca del Rio asked the people in Boca del Rio what they were proud of, and he didn't find a clear answer. But he found that there were a couple of musicians there, classical musicians, and they were very proud to be classical musicians. So the mayor immediately brought in a music director, Mester, who's there, the guy in the center, of course, the director, to build the first Philharmonica for Boca del Rio. So they built a Philharmonica for Boca del Rio, and after it became very important because it was playing all over the country and many international places, the mayor called me and he said, "Can you please come? I think it's time to build a house for the Philharmonica. They deserve to have a place." So not only was it exciting for me, working again with the government, but it also linked two of my passions. As Banu told you, I used to be a musician. So architecture meets music in a project, to me, was just, it couldn't get any better. No, so it was the first time that I could experience now designing a place for performance. And I was lucky enough also to choose the site with the client. I remember that he took us to different sites. Ones were nicer than the other ones. And I said, no, let's go to the one that the community needs it most. Let's put it in a place where actually the community will start reviving through what we do, because it's where it's needed the most. And all of the people in Boca del Rio and Veracruz will come here. And it'll ignite this place, and it will give this place the full understanding of what we want to deliver and bring to them. So what happened here is that, let me go back. We never presented the project without the wave breaker. The project was integral to us because the wave breaker was a mess. It was full of broken bottles, diapers. It was like totally abandoned. So when we started to think about this place, we said, okay, we'll do it, but we'll fix the wave breaker to put light, to make it clean, and to have outdoor spaces that the Philharmonica is not only about what you have inside, but it's also what you have on the outside. So here's a little physical model. So what we went from the wave breakers, stones or concrete elements that serve for wave breakers, to a bigger size of rocks that start forming Fotoboca. So here you see the physical models and all the pieces that compose the project. Here's the project being built on site. Complicated site because we were on the beach, and doing the foundation on the beach and all the technical details that really are needed to happen to make this project be what it needs to be. So here's the section of the project. You have a sitting space on the inside. This is you sit 950 people on the inside. You have this beautiful terrace that's the only place where you have the view to the sea. You have an indoor, the mezzanines and the reception area, and then the whole back of house, which is also a very beautiful experience because in the back of house, you have a light well with a garden. So all the offices here have this amazing garden in the center and look to the sky. The whole idea of why it's this massive construction building towards the outside, it's because it sits in a place where you have the most dominant north winds and the most aggressive north winds. So we wanted to protect the people coming to the project with the building. It opens up towards this place which connects to the street, which opens up this little slit that you'll see that becomes it's called Foro Boca. Boca is mouth. So we tried to create this mouth as an opening. The labor and the craft in this case is this project where the wooden elements start pushing in and out. So you have this beautiful craftsmanship of the detailing of the formwork, which we were very concentrated, because at the end of the day, what we wanted is that because of the depth of the concrete, it'll start aging really nice. We didn't want the project to be pristine and super clean all the time. We wanted it to age as wave breakers start aging and they feel according to the site. So this is a project at the day of the opening. You have this amazing cantilever access, no? So that's the mouth of the project. That's where people come in. That's where people hang out. It compresses you to 210 maximum height. And once you come in, you have the experience of a double and triple height mezzanine entrance, no? This is a beautiful video that I'll let you guys see. And this is very important because this one also changed a little bit of my perception of my own career. It was a couple of months before the opening, and the mayor came in and he's like, I want everybody right now in the middle of the main hall. And of course, all the workers and the contractors thought that the mayor was going to go crazy and scream at everybody. And this is exactly what happened. Let me know if the sound is okay. One by one, each of the musicians of the Philharmonica started appearing on stage, wearing hard hats and vests to tell the workers that they were exactly like them, that they were working in music while the others were working in building, but they were people just like them. So the first concert that happened on the inside of the Philharmonica was a concert for the workers. And it's important to understand that we're always thinking as architects and designers how to build a better future, but the better future is by acting now. So if today you're not understanding who you're working with, you're not sharing the responsibility, you're not sharing the recognizing them, you're not recognizing the other's value as a human, forget about what job they're doing, just recognizing them as human, we're doing our job wrong. We're doing it in the wrong way. So it's not about what we do, but how we're doing it. And this was an amazing experience. I mean, the workers were like fascinated. This is the mayor and his wife being really grateful to the workers. And you can imagine these guys, the last 4 months of the construction, they were totally, happy. They were overwhelmed. To them, it was like they were building something greater than them, and they understood what it was about. So whenever I see articles like this of the New York Times, I'm not surprised, not because of not as an architectural ego, but I'm not surprised because the energy was there, the energy of how we built something as a community, how we build this as a team, how we put people together to really try to make the best project that we could for the budget that we had and the conditions that we had. And it started, it has won many awards in different places. As you see here, definitely you're going to start having all these new areas of development. All these empty lots for sure will then have high rises, well, not high rises, but medium story buildings that will, there's a new zoning that makes sure that the base is only 2 levels. The high rises are pushed a little bit back. So everything you have restaurants and coffee shops and everything connected to the beach. So this is going to change over time, and this is going to be beautiful to see, and see how Foro Boca was capable of or responsible of making this happen. Let me do this really quick. I can't get my tool of, no. Oh, there we go. So, so this is the construction. This is the plazas. The plazas are made of granite. You see people there with the bikes. The fishermen came back, which are beautiful. The inside of the Philharmonica are these all these amazing places that now are utilized for also different things. A little bit like the Film Institute, where you have maybe a quartet playing while there's another concert happening, or maybe there's a DJ in the other closed venue. But this is, once you come through the compressed area, this is the first thing that you see, this triple height or quadruple height entrance with a skylight and light coming in and flushing through there. Another beautiful thing that is also really important to acknowledge is that for people that cannot afford to buy tickets, we said, let's have everything projected on the outside for free. So everything that happens on the inside of the venue happens on the outside as well. So this is, for instance, Joshua Bell, the day of the opening, and they're projected, they have sound, and people can have the experience on the outside without, again, paying tickets and going in the inside of the venue. The inside also has its nice qualities with really raw tectonics. So you have the concrete bouncing or playing with the acoustics of the space with the raw wood. So it's a whole that I'm always curious, and I always ask the musicians that were there, like, what they, I mean, rather than having my architect friends tell me what they thought about the place, I'd rather ask the musicians what they think about the place and how do they feel playing in there. So this is a project that we're super happy about, and it's given us, I mean, amazing satisfaction. So, I mean, designing for other things to happen, I think it's important also to understand that we cannot be as neurotic as architects as we always are, trying to design 300% of everything, but designing for things to happen, to understand how community takes these places and how communities really make them theirs. No, I think the importance is seeing the beauty of people using a space in a different way. I'm going to go by really quick on this one. This is a winery that we're doing here in Valle de Guadalupe. Valle de Guadalupe is close to the border of the states. You have to go through Tijuana. Tijuana is close to San Diego. So you have the border and you go down to Tijuana, and then you drive for an hour and a half to get to Ensenada. It's our wine country. It's a little bit like our small Napa Valley place. And we were asked to do a winery and some villas, a spa, and a great and beautiful environment. These are some images of the first thing that we came to our mind, where we said we want to disappear whatever we built there. We wanted to really mimic what is there. The project was these three little hills in Valle de Guadalupe. One of them had already been flattened out, so that you have two natural hills with amazing stones. But before we got there, the first one was flattened from the top. So we said, whatever we built, why don't we rebuild the one that was flattened out to make it look like the three hills are still intact? So our strategy was with these three hills, putting again together an interdisciplinary team, as we always do. We always work in collaborations. We think that architecture doesn't happen on its own, and it's really important to understand how to collaborate with people. Interdisciplinary, of course, has always been a favorite of mine, because we bring in sociologists, archaeologists, financial people to even understand some problematics that we might not even have been aware of at the beginning. So the project is divided into many parts. I'll go really quick on some of the ideas of the project. But so the first one is the restaurant where people come in. So this is what completes the mountain. This is the hill that's chopped off from the top. And the idea is that you have these places or these effervescent bubble effects that you don't see from the outside. But once you get to the inside, you discover them. So that's, here you see this image of how the hill is completed. It has this courtyard in the middle. But if you take away the layers, you start seeing all these bubble or cupulas or these effects that you have on the inside, these effervescent arches that you see from the outside, but become these kind of circular bubbles that you see that window at the end of the image as well. No? Here we were testing out in a very raw way some of the ideas, intersections before because the whole intention with this project is we're building with bricks that are fabricated with the land of the site. So taking pieces of the land and building with the land itself to make it really blend and feel that it's there. These are the pool area. You have the pool and for adults and a pool for kids, divided into 2 areas. And the whole intention of the project, again, is playing with these effervescent elements that at some point, instead of now being the cupolas or the bubble effects towards the ground, they turn around and become these bowls that now have the pools and start creating the effect as an inverse effect. So some of the physical models, here you see on site how it clings to the side and starts resembling a little bit of the rocks that you're seeing on top, and mimicking also a little bit of the chromatics and the colors. No? Some daylight images that you see there. Of course, the balloons are taken as an idea from Cappadocia. So hot air balloons that I hope we now start having also in Ensenada for the wine festivals and all that. And then the villas. The villas are very simple. I won't bore you with these. But the whole idea with the villas is that they start disappearing again on the site. You have the rooftops that are landscape rooftops. You have some intentions that instead of maybe having a column, there's a rock that holds the rooftop that's also planted. So again, the intention is that whenever you're there, you always feel like you're surrounded by nature. No, so here you see the daylight image and the nighttime image. And that's what's happening now. The winery is what's more advanced in the construction. You'll see some images at the moment, but the winery is this circular element. It's interesting because most of the wineries there are these hardcore enologists, winery owners that really, I mean, I don't want to say old school, but they do their things in a traditional way. Here we invited one of the sons of one of the major or better well-known wine connoisseurs in the area, and his son is a little bit more experimental. So his son worked with us designing this new winery to be a bit more experimental, where we're not shy to mix and match with different grapes and do experiments on what wines can be produced and mixed on the area. So these are some of the final images or the most recent ones that we have. Pasidi House. I don't know, how are we with time, Manu? To maybe see if I can present this, or?
I think we have time, it's okay. You can present.
Okay. So I'll show you this one, which is a house that we're finishing now. And the interesting thing about this house is that it's a single family house, but the client had a very particular ask. He said, I want an access to the house for my kids that they feel independent. I want an access for my wife that has a studio in the house, and I want an access for my guests. So I said, oh, that's a lot of doors for a single house. So what we started thinking is, okay, if we have all these doors and the common thing is the circulation between the house, why don't we make the circulation the most important theme of the house? And why don't we make that circulation become the structural element of the house where everybody gets to meet? So here, let me see if I can grab my pen. Yeah, I can use it. So this is where people come in. My client will come in with his car and access the house through here. And then he can go in to this part if he wants to go directly to the kitchen. If not, he goes through this incredible garden courtyard to go all the way down to the access of the house. If somebody's coming or walking, he will enter here. That's the main access. If my client's wife goes directly to her office and takes a client to her office, it's that one. And if the kids come in, it's this one. So these different ways of entering the house, again, as I was explaining, became this interesting way of understanding the design of the house. So you have this kind of labyrinth on the inside that is this made of black concrete that walks you in, and once you pop out, takes you to these open spaces. No, the circulation also creates a courtyard in the middle and some patios. And here you'll see some of the images. The house also acts a little bit like an auto protector in a way that creates its own inner courtyard, a little bit to hide the views of the neighbors. It's a very nice neighborhood, but the houses of the, I mean, geographically, but the houses are not like super nice design as we wished as architects would have liked. So here you see a little bit of how this concrete black shape starts touching the ground, cantilevers, goes again. And so the house is floating at different points, which makes the experience very beautiful. This is again the formwork to create this black concrete. And here we were again, I mean, working a house that we love, coming back to designing houses. And a house to us always has to represent a very unique personality for the clients. A house has to be a representation of who the clients are. And in this case, we worked with the clients very closely to design that. As you see here, the neighbors all have like really green grass houses, like the typical garden that you have. We convinced our client that we didn't want to have like a typical garden. So the house actually becomes this whole garden that's very lush garden with the house unraveling. Here, there you see some names, but as you see, I mean, it's very green, it's very nice, it has some nice qualities. The house here was almost taking shape. Those are the inner spaces, which again, once you're in this black labyrinth, you have these skylights that are very beautiful, very dramatic. And then once you start moving through the house, this is what you start getting, no? These images of open space, no, and the house floating, or then a window that opens up on your right. There you see the scale of the building. I mean, there's me and my client talking about the landscape that still needs to be finished. We're maybe a month away of all the details. He moved into the house already, which is interesting, but so he's being very patient because he still has gardeners and everybody outside. Banu, I'm going to finish with this project, and this project was something that before the pandemic, well, not before. I mean, once the pandemic started, I think that at least to me, there was more. It was a very introspective moment. Like I really questioned what I have been doing with my life. I guess a lot of us questioned the same. Like, what are we doing? Our kids, our family. Is it worth everything that we're doing? What are we pursuing? I mean, is the speed of things and this supposed to be a successful and occupied profession, is that the right thing? Or are we really messing up? Because we are, no? We're the speed, the veracity, the lack of connecting to others really is what brought us to this pandemic. So once we were sitting down in our houses, first of all, acknowledging that we're fortunate enough to be in a house, because there were people less fortunate than us that didn't even have a house. The ones that were here and we're alive, we're fortunate because we are here, and we still have to acknowledge that because people are still dying every day of COVID. So we thought it was important to have a place, to have a way of mourning the dead people. And it's not only the people that are close to you, but understanding that people are dying. And if we don't care about the other, it doesn't have to be a close relative. It has to be somebody, it's a life. It's a life that's lost, and it's a life that's lost because we've been careless. So we proposed a place. We were thinking of Central Park. We said, what if we have a place in not Central Park, I'm sorry, in Times Square, where we could have a place for people to come and acknowledge their lost ones. So it's these concrete bases that have these wooden posts that have LED lights on top with the names of the people that have been dying. So you can come in to visit the place, but if you have a relative or somebody that you knew that died, you can take the post and take it to your house and put it outside in a way like the white bicycles that we started seeing all over the world, where somebody would die of a bicycle accident. And the important thing here is to us is that nobody asked for this project, but it was something that we wanted to do as architects and human beings, just to say, the sadness of people that we knew that couldn't see their relatives after they were dead, when they were, I mean, they took them out of the hospital and they couldn't see them again. It's like the lack of having a place to mourn them really, really worried us. So we said, let's have just something as a reminder where people can maybe put flowers. And we also did the same for in Mexico City, in our most important plaza in the Zócalo, sharing it even as an idea of a project, no? And again, I mean, it's just, I think that now with the pandemic, it's the importance of connecting to ourselves, connecting to others, and connecting to nature, because it's the only way that we're really going to understand what lies ahead for us. So I would love to say that we're almost in the last part of the pandemic, which I hope it is true, that we're able to come out of this. But if not, what's the world that we want to live in? What is the world that we want to see as architects, as designers, and most important, as human beings, with our kids and with our families? So this is the last video, and again, it's the installation in Mexico City, in Zócalo. And just as a reflection again, or insight, is like, what are we doing, and how are we doing the things that we do today? And who is it? Is it helping people? Is it not helping people? Are we part again of this problem, or we're part of the solution? So thank you very much, Manu. I think this is the last.
It is a perfect ending to a perfect speech. Thank you. As you mentioned, this was an important opportunity to think about our lives and what we are doing and how we are doing and why we are doing. I mean, I have some questions for you, and I'm going to give some time for the audience to ask their questions. So I've always felt a bond with you because of the cities that we were born in. Although Mexico City and Istanbul are totally two different cultures, I think they are very similar in terms of, let me say, chaos. And the first slide that you have shown, I have a smile on my face. I mean, it's easily, we can see more or less the same thing in Istanbul, in Turkey. Nowadays, again, we are once again in turbulent times, both politically and economically, and honestly, more or less, it was the case all my life. I believe it was, and maybe it is still the case for you too in Mexico City. So I cannot help but wonder, are we survivors? I mean, is chaos that we were born into can be something stimulating? How do you cope with that as a designer? My first question is.
Well, first of all, I love coming from the places that we were born in, but I think it takes time, Banu. I think it takes time to love the place you were born, because at first you look outside and you're impressed about the world outside of your own home, no? And then when you realize the beauty of what you have, the beauty of this chaos, the beauty of being in a place that you need to think, because if you don't think, you don't even cross the street because you don't know where the traffic is coming from. So if you don't think, you don't know how to operate in cities like ours. So it becomes a place where you're challenged all the time. It's not a place where the bus says it arrives at 8:02 and at 8:02 the bus arrives. I always I joke with my daughter, no? I tell her, like, it's fascinating because imagine that you're in a video game and you have to learn the rules of the video game, which in our countries, there are no rules, no? I mean, there are rules, and there's again, I mean, we could, if we talk about politics, we'll stay here forever, but the lack of politics, the lack of certain decisions make, at least in Mexico, you have the formal layer and you have the informal layer. The informal layer, it's the beauty of why people come to Mexico. They love the informal markets. They love the chaos in the streets, the musicians. They love, like, all the things that are a bit more a circumstance of the non-system, which makes it great. So
being spontaneous, I think drives people. Like, I understand that, but sometimes I feel like an exotic animal for the central, I mean, stagnant European community, because it feels like very exciting as a tourist, but as an inhabitant, sometimes your breath is taken. I mean, let me say.
Oh, I mean, of course, there's also, I mean, I can't stop feeling bad of the inequalities, of the injustice, of the different things that happen, for sure, no. But in some other cases, I'm super blown away by the optimistic, again, ingeniousness that I see on the streets every day. So in a way, we are survivors, Banu, in terms of just see how all these, I don't want to say stagnant, but see all these like super well-behaved countries that have the perfect systems and everything is great. You can check your balance on your bank and it's there every single time. I mean, everything's just beautiful, no? Everything, you have a client and pays you the project completely, and your drawings get built exactly how the drawings are designed, no? And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. But in every time that there has been a crisis in all these more, I don't want to say perfect places,
systematic, let us say.
Whatever the like really great things, they come back to see what's going on in chaotic places. Third world countries like Mexico, they come back like, how do you guys, because crisis, Banu, I've heard that word since the day I was born. My parents were talking about crisis since so to me, crisis is not something new. It's never been, no? And talking bad about politicians, it hasn't been new. We've been talking, I mean,
no, never. It's the oldest fairy tale here too.
Yeah, and I know you've gone through the same, and at least in Mexico, Banu, I can tell you that that sort of anger is taken from a lot of creative people and transformed into their creative work. So you have amazing chefs, and you have amazing filmmakers, and you have amazing architects, and that becomes a little bit like your anger, no? I don't want Mexico to be seen through the eyes of this politician that speaks like I don't want to say what, but I want to see people see Mexico through the lens of the creative people that are trying to say a different, show a different type of Mexico. No?
I think you're on a perfect point. That was my second question. Sorry, guys, I'm going to give some time for you too, for the audience, but there is a term, I guess, MIMO, the term Mexican movement, which local architects used to call. I mean, I was introduced to that term like 7 or 8 years ago by an article on Arch Daily. And back then, we all knew, of course, about the Pritzker Prize winner, Louis Barragan, and his work. But after the 2000s, including you, Enrico Nortan, Fernando Romero, Tatiana Bilbao, and many others, raised a strong voice from Mexico. And some of them, like you, extended your reach and opened up some successful practices globally. So how is the architectural scene now in Mexico, and how did you manage to get heard?
I mean, I think, again, it's very beautiful in the way that what we're talking about, a lot of people trying to show a different Mexico, a lot of people trying to show what they do with their work. And interesting enough, it's that, I mean, there's great new offices. I can talk about a lot of them, but I'm more interested now in people that come together, Banu, and call themselves a collective. So you have a firm, Tezontle Studio, that you don't know if they're architects or artists, or, I mean, it's kind of like this mix of things where again, maybe naming a profession is old school now. Maybe people don't want to be one profession. Maybe people want to have this mix of thinkers that create different type of outcomes. So I think there's a very powerful movement of artists, of, again, filmmakers. There's a lot of producers now doing all these TV shows now that became also kind of this new way of people being entertained. Fashion designers as well. So it's beautiful to see. And when I talk to most of the younger ones, they're they're not, I think they're not even angry as we were as a generation, that we're angry against the government. They just do their stuff. Because they say, I can either complain or I can do, and I'd rather do. So they just go. I mean, because I think at some point at least I can speak about me. I did complain as a generation about our governments at some point and did that. And then I started like learning from the new kids, like, okay, shut up and work. And your work has to be that reactive way of saying something about what's not fair, about what's not equal, about what's all these social injustices. So if through the work we can fix systemic wrongs, I think that's a really interesting way of approaching projects. So yeah, I love not only I love being Mexican and being here now, Banu, at this moment, you can't imagine how many foreigners are arriving to Mexico. They're saying like Mexico not only is interesting for them in the creative sense, the freedom that we have here in many different things that people lost that freedom in their own countries, they're just taken away by that. Even just by I don't want to say this is good, but even just by, here you see everybody wearing masks, but there's not such a strict mandate of vaccination cards. And if you don't show your vaccination card, you don't go anywhere. I mean, people are more careful with their masks and that you see in other countries, but there's different ways. But you see restaurants in the streets, musicians in the streets, you see concerts. There's
life,
that
basically life on the streets. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I think people miss the life. I sometimes miss the life, but in our countries, we are alive, at least. That is a very crucial point to make. There are two people who are eager to ask questions. Alper Derinboz, who you have already met, I guess. Alper, do you hear us?
Hi, Banu.
How are you, Alper?
Hi.
Great.
Talking about collaborations, Banu, we're figuring out what to do as a team. So
perfect.
Good that you're here, Banu. Albert, tell me what's going on, my friend.
Thank you. It's great to hear you. We know all your projects, but it is amazing to listen it from your side, like with all the political background and crisis and chaos within it.
So what are we gonna do now?
Yes.
Nah.
I mean, it was very encouraging presentation. I mean, your work is inspiring, like I said earlier, inspiring to us. But beyond that, like Banu was saying, I mean, you do it in a complex environment, so it's much more interesting and much more difficult. I understand that. So, and I also see, we also follow your peaceful relationship with the technology. It's maybe not the focus of your work. We were very happy to listen about social sustainability aspect of it. But where does technology stand in your work? Like, what does that mean in your context?
Well, thanks, Alper, for the question. So, I love technology, and I love technology as a tool. I love technology as a tool, but also as a tool for learning, Alper. I think that it's important. I love digital design, but I love local fabrication. So the process of feeding workers like the craftsmen that we have in Mexico with digital files, and then being open for them to share what they think about these digital files and say, oh, this is great, but the craft that we do requires that we weld in this way. Ah, perfect. So I come back and then go back to the computer and design something, understanding their craft. So like in everything in my life, if there is no growth in a relationship, I don't want that relationship. If there is no growth amongst the workers and what we're doing, I don't think it's a good job, because I don't want to have people that I tell them what to do. I want to listen to their expertise, and I want to be open to saying like, okay, this is what I have in mind. What do you think? And really being open to that has changed a lot of the ways I see architecture, because it's not like this is the work, do it, and now build the pyramids, no? And I don't care how long it is. It's like no, it's like, you guys know. So if you're telling me something that's valuable, of course I'll take it. Sometimes I know when they're lazy and they don't want to do something, and of course I don't listen to that part. I listen to the part where it's actual real good feedback. So digital design, but always local fabrication. The local fabrication tells me a lot of stories that are worth incorporating, and I can tell you a lot of the designs that we did, how they changed because of the main craft welder, no, or the main craft steel guy. So it was interesting to understand, and also to learn the capacity of what you have in hand, no, and not force a Mexican welder to be a Swiss machine. No, it's like I want to really have the Mexican label saying it was handmade in Mexico. No, in the case of Mexico, because if you're building in another country, it should be the same. We do when we're building in some other place, we try to look for the local craftsmen and figure out what's the trade, what do they do, what's their expertise, and what can I learn from them. No?
Thank you. I mean,
Thank you.
It's very guiding.
Thank you very much,
Looking
Michelle.
forward
I think
to
more or
talk
less
to you again. Bye.
it's the same in Turkey as well. I mean, we always tend to move between the craftsmanship and technology. I mean, it's back and forth all the time, but this is actually included in the brief as well. I mean, what you have in your hands is the technology you got. We got Onur Dinmez, who has a question. Can we have Mr. Onur? Thank you, Alper. Görüşürüz. Teşekkürler.
Thank you.
Alper,
It's
thank
a
you, my
beautiful
friend.
presentation with
Thank you.
Michelle. Great to see you guys.
Looking forward to a collaboration soon, my friend.
Likewise. See you.
Merhaba.
Hello. Good night. Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank you for this great presentation and this great opportunity to have you here. And thanks, ODE Select, and thanks, dear Banu. Actually, I have a question, and Alper was asking the same thing. So let me ask this way this time. As far as I can see, you are using the parametric tools and the softwares, the plugins during your designs. And I'm just a little bit curious about how you create the balance of using all these softwares, plugins, and the craftsmanship at the site, at the real life, at the construction site, as an architect and sometimes maybe as a project manager. So how you try to create that balance in your practice. It was a great presentation, Michael, and thanks for everything.
Thank you. And it's a little bit like I was talking to Albert. No, first we do a lot of research, and the research is if we're going to cut steel, what are the beds that we have, the sizes, the dimensions, what can we cut, what's the depth of the steel gauge, what are the certain logics of materiality, what are then the logics of the craftsmanship and what they can do. So most of the time, I spend a lot of time going to see wood factories, metal factories, to see what they're doing, and to see if they're doing things with clay and with volcanic rock, and because that informs my head and our office on certain materials that are really good to work with. Because again, I don't want to work with a material that can't be found in Mexico, because it would be crazy, no? So I'd rather work with that material once I'm in the country where that material is produced. And but not only if the material is here, but what's the trade? Is there anybody interesting enough to really work with that could preserve a trade? Because we're also losing a lot of trades, as you know, no? I mean, technology and fabrication have really killed a lot of this thing that I was calling about craftsmanship and about slowing things down. And the same thing in Turkey. I mean, when I was in Istanbul, I mean, a lot of the people that you see there, the craftsmen, how many generations will pass until you lose the really great workers? Because the kids don't want to work in that same thing anymore. They want to be lawyers, and they want to be other things than their parents. So I think it's important, us as architects, also to be promoters of craft, and to be promoters of yes, clients want things fast and they want that the speed. Yes, but we also have to acknowledge that let's slow a bit down, because that speed got us here. That voracity of real estate predators, as I call most of them, not developers, and because they don't care about. Well, they didn't care. Now at least I'm seeing clients coming saying like, oh, I do want to make money off the building, but I do want to do good things. What can I do that creates a better impact with the community? So that is one. Like, for instance, now we're doing a master plan in Los Cabos. Cabo San Lucas is the peninsula that we have, at the bottom of the peninsula in Mexico, in Cabo San Lucas. And it's a master plan where we're going to do some villas. There's permaculture. You're going to have all the plants are eatable plants, edible plants, and the whole intention there is like we're going to build a couple of units. So I told the client, if we're going to build this amount of housing, why don't you start doing a wooden factory, and why don't you start doing a metal factory, and you start producing your own doors and your own windows and your own, because that's, I think, the best way to really integrate the community. You're creating a factory, you're teaching them trades, you're bringing technology where you bring in a CNC machine to cut whatever you want. And then maybe if we're good enough, you'll get more clients asking you to produce their windows and to produce their metal stuff, besides than the ones you're producing for yourself. So that's becoming something that we might really make it happen. And that's a little bit of our process, that by doing research and understanding that mix of technology, where can we push technology to produce either parametric or non-parametric, but at least the design-driven projects, and the results really having the right manufacturer on hand, no?
Yeah, I hear you. I got you. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, Onur. Thanks.
Thank you.
And we have Nurgül Yardım, who has a question. Nurgül?
Hi, Banu, and hi, Michelle. Actually, you have such an inspiring stories and projects, but I think the storytelling is what we all do as designers. So I think we are moved by stories. So thank you so much, these amazing stories behind the projects. And as I listened to your presentation, actually, I feel that you are not only creator of the forms, but also the formats. So it's very powerful to listen this video, to see this video from the Philharmonic or your clients and the community that you have worked for. So I think it's all about relations and the communication issue. So, and this comes to my question actually. Do you think that this architectural communications, using different formats to communicate with the community and maybe your clients, it's kind of becoming more and more commonplace in the future, and how architects may design these communications? What do you think about it?
I mean, I think as I tell my students, and first of all, thank you for asking, and for as I tell my students, architecture is the building, the construction of words, the construction of ideas, the construction of processes that takes you to really construct buildings and to build buildings. But you build an opinion, you build an idea. So I always tell my students, really work on understanding your capacity to build an idea and to share that idea, because there's great designers, but they're very bad at talking about their projects. And sometimes I'm shocked, how do they get even a project done? No, but that's not they were not taught to do that. You were taught to design really well and give a drawing, and the drawing needs to be built. But with technology today, we're almost everywhere. You're either on this thing or that thing, or that. So you're either. So there's more communication and there's faster communication. So again, I think it's an opportunity for all of us to synthesize our thoughts, because of course we have all these crazy. It's okay. First, learn to process and synthesize, because otherwise, then you say a lot of things without saying anything, and and then understand the power of words and understand how those words and how presenting those words gets you open doors, that gets you a seat at the table, and then you become a person that has the capacity to design a strategy. So at least in my career, at some point, I didn't want to just be the architect, because just being the architect, and don't get me wrong, but just being the architect was very easily, it was a very easy situation to be taken out of. Like the client now has somebody that's cheaper, or now his brother-in-law is an architect, so you're out of the job and now there's somebody else. But if you're an advisor to him, because he likes the way you think and your strategy and approach to things, he will not take you out. You become his advisor, and you become a person that he wants you to be with him, because you're not centered on this ego of the architect, just thinking about form or a shape. You're there to really support him, to say, okay, it's your money, but it's the most value for your money. And it's the most impact for your money. So if you trust us as a team, and this is the team that I'm coming to you to do the project, you'll have a much better project than just having an architectural shape or building. No? So it's a little bit of that. I think it's the opportunity to say something and be listened to immediately. Anybody can tweet something right now, and in 2 seconds you'll be the dumbest person in the room or the smartest one. No, because you'll get a lot of people either attacking you or saying like, wow, this is interesting, it resonates with me. No, so there hasn't been a better opportunity. Even as a musician, no, I talk to my musician friends, and before, when we recorded something, who would you take your cassette to? There was nobody. I mean, you had to go and knock on a door of a building that was maybe some record company. But today, an artist produces music and he just puts it on the web, and it's there. So again, with this ability to connect to the world, it's important to really be careful about what are the words that you choose to build your career on, and what's your opinion, and what are you building with your day-to-day. No? But anyway.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you, Nurgül.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, Michelle. And last question, I think it's from Ayşe. Please shoot, Ayşe.
Hello again, Banu and Michelle. Thank you so much for being with us today again, and thank you for your amazing presentation. I think it was very inspiring for all of us. I have a question for you as well. When we are talking to strangers, we usually talk about our successes, although most of the time our characters, our career and life are defined by our failures, actually, and we tend to learn from them much more than from our successes. And my question is, do you have any epic failure experiences that helped you to grow? Of course, if you want to share. Thank you.
Yes, all the time. I think that one of the most important ones was the National Film Institute. So imagine getting a call from the government, from the president, telling you, I want you to do my claim to fame project, which is a National Film Institute. Before I leave term, I want to leave with having that Film Institute being kind of my project. And it was, again, as I said, 60,000 square meters in 9 months before the president left. So public project, government, of course, federal, the federal money, whatever, but 9 months coordinating crazy amount of people doing the construction work. But the most crazy thing is that we knew we were not going to finish on time. We knew that it was impossible to open up the Film Institute. So by the end of his term, instead of opening it, doing a formal inauguration, he did a formal walk through the site to leave the project almost finished for the next president and term to fully inaugurate. So holy shit, I was there in an unfinished building, which of course I designed it, but I'm not the contractor, I'm not the construction people. So it was not my responsibility to finish the construction of a building, but they're opening a building that's not finished. So they open a building that's not finished, And even the worst part comes a couple of weeks later, that governments change, and then we get the worst rain ever in Mexico, hail, the metro system floods, everything. I mean, this was just crazy. And of course, an unfinished project like the Film Institute starts flooding. Literally, the theaters where people were watching the films started dripping water from the lamps. So I was getting, that's where I learned what trolling was. Like I was getting everybody killing me on Twitter and all, like, this awful architect, he shouldn't be an architect, he doesn't know how to do a building. And I was like, I mean, of course, the next day we were there checking the drawings, seeing what was unfinished of the project, just pointing out that it has to be a finished project, no? So anyway, I mean, that really stressed me a lot. I was really feeling bad for maybe the next 6 months, because I was like, that's not who I am. That's not my job. That's not the way I commit to my project. So why am I being judged of something that is not finished? No. So again, it's like, but you have to learn to let go. Of course, with time, they almost finished it, because it was even hard to finish a project that changed political parties and presidents. But they did a great job, and now it's finished, and now it won awards, and so it's
everybody's happy.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's super proud of the Film Institute, but that was really hard, because you don't want to you want to do your best, and sometimes there's things you can't control, no? And that was a really, and it was the government, public project, so it was like, I mean, I don't know if, I mean, Photobook is another really good project, but at least in Mexico City, there's a couple of really big projects, and Cineteca was one of those, no? So that was a good experience.
Thank you so much, Michel.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the attendees, and thank you very much, Michel, and thanks, Diego, for the help for the project. And I'm very eager to see you face to face once again. Thank you for everything.
Thank you to everybody, and I hope I get to see you soon. I love Turkey, I really do. Every time I go back, I'm just like, I love the food, I love the people, I really feel at home. So hopefully when this pandemic ends, I'll get a chance to see you guys in person. And Banu, thanks for the invitation.
See you.
And
hope to see you soon again. Bye everyone.